Hello and welcome back to my channel. So it's time for my birth story, and I expected to probably be in about birth about now, but he's actually 2 weeks old. If you can hear squeaking, he is next to me. On the 24th of February, about 6 AM, I realised that I was having contractions. I'm going to do a separate video about like the run up to labour, because there were a few signs and I was doing some labour inducing tips, and I want to make a video because I'm not sure if I induced my labour or didn't. I'm not sure. I don't know if this is entirely positive birth. It's nothing too traumatic, but it's not a perfect birth. It's up to you if you keep watching or not. I don't think it will scare you. I think it's quite interesting. I think my labour was very interesting, so let's crack on. So basically that morning I realised that Taylen hadn't been moving very much the night before and during the night. I was half asleep kind of all night. I wasn't in a deep sleep, and I had a backache, but I'd had back and pelvic pain the last kind of few weeks anyway, but it was kind of like a dull ache and I didn't think much of it. Irene woke us up about 4 AM that day, and normally I'd stay in bed and Tom would get up with him because, you know, I was pregnant. Something just gave me the urge to get up and go sit with him and listen to his random morning songs and chatter and things like that. So I realised that I was having Braxton Hicks. And then I realised that they were coming and going, but really softly, and that's why I was like, I don't think this is labour, because it's not that intense. And I thought you'd kind of know straight away, because everyone always says you know when you're in labour, and it was just really not what I thought it was going to be. And I told Tom, and he was just kind of half asleep, like, it doesn't sound like it, so you know. So I went upstairs and I laid on the bed, and I got the stopwatch up on my phone and I lapped the tightenings, and then I was like, these are 3 to 4 minutes apart. By this point I had not lost my mucus plug. I've not lost any waters whatsoever. I rang the hospital and the midwife was a bit blasé, like, okay, you might as well come in because you've had reduced movement, but I really don't think you're in labour. I went downstairs and I was still having these tightenings, and I sat on my ball and I was rocking forwards and backwards, basically where I'm sat now. And you can see the basketball net. Irene was playing basketball, and every time I was having these tightenings I was practising my hypnobirthing. So I was breathing in for 4, out for 8. Irene, Mummy, why are you making wind? Daddy, why is Mummy making wind? Daddy, what's wrong with Mummy? But anyway, we had to drop Irene off at nursery, so they dropped me off at the hospital on the way, and then Tom zoomed to nursery and dropped Irene off. So I went up and I explained to them, like, I'm having these tightenings and I can't speak, so if I do this it just means I can't speak, and I felt so rude doing it. But they were asking me loads of questions, and they strapped me to the monitor. So it's like 2 straps that go around your tummy, and they've got kind of like ultrasound pads on them to monitor the movement and the heartbeat, and when you feel movement you press the button. As soon as they put me on the monitor, they saw that it was in fact contractions. They examined me and I was 1 to 2 centimetres. I still don't really know the reason why, but the midwife was like, I think we're going to break your waters and we're going to put you on an IV and you're going to go down to delivery, call your husband. And that really scared me, because of COVID they're not letting people in until you're 4 centimetres. They wheelchaired me down to delivery, and I was holding the tears, and then I laid on the bed and I just couldn't hold it in anymore, and I cried. And this midwife really softened then, because she was a little bit stern with me on the phone and everything, and she thought, what's wrong? I was like, I had a really bad time last time and I'm just really anxious. So Tom walked into me like sniffling and they decided not to break my waters, and I still don't really understand why, but basically I was put in a drip and I had the straps on me, and I had that throughout to the end, and that was not what I wanted. So I had a really kind of in-depth birth plan. I wanted to use a TENS machine or have a water birth. Tom was due to pick up the TENS machine that morning, so if you want a TENS machine, pick it up from like 35 weeks if you're hiring one. We literally were due to pick it up at 9:30 that day, and it was 8 o'clock in the morning, but you're supposed to use a TENS machine from like the first contraction that you notice. Yeah, I was on this bed and I kind of felt like I was almost handcuffed to it, and this is the bit where I'm not sure if it's a positive experience because of this, and I just felt really deflated. As you all know, I really worked hard on my anxiety and my mental health about this birth. I really got into hypnobirthing. I had this plan, preference I'd say. I wasn't dead stuck on it, and I had my options, but I couldn't have any of them. The 2 midwives in the room that were with me really went above and beyond to read my birth plan, and they were like fantastic, and I will always remember them. A consultant barged in and come up to me and said, right, so you've got a big baby, so you've got more chance of this happening, scar rupture, this, emergency section, just reeled off all this like negative stuff. And I know that they have to let you know, but I wrote in my notes at the top, please tell my husband any questions or concerns so I can keep myself calm because of my previous traumatic experience. It just felt really sad. I'd really got myself prepared and I felt ready, and I said I'll make a video about me preparing for labor because I felt ready, I felt relaxed. I'd really worked hard and it just felt like everything was already going wrong. But I kind of had a mental word with myself and said, you can do two things. You can stay in this negative headspace, or you can do what you can do of your birth plan. And I did that, I did the latter. So I started getting into my hypnobirthing breathing, and I downloaded the Freya app, which is by the Positive Birth Company. You don't have to have had their course, it's $2.99. It's really, really good. So it times your contractions. You press this kind of button, so then it will tell you when to go to the hospital, what sort of stage of labour you're in, if you manage to keep using it that long. So the thing I liked about it is that you pressed it and you could set it to a certain type of breathing. So there was two types. There was in for 4 and exhale for 8, or there was in for 3, exhale for 6. I preferred the latter because I find it really hard to take really deep breaths in and out. I think it's my fitness instructor background. I'm quite a shallow breather. So the 3-6 just suited me better. So you press the button when you're having a contraction and this circle expands as you inhale and then slowly contracts as you breathe. And for me, having something to kind of press and watch really helped keep me like focused and really helped me on that breathing. That really worked for me, and I had some really relaxing music playing in the background. I got time to breathe my lavender and I smelled that, but it didn't really do anything for me. So I just thought, take that away, that didn't work. For me, it was like the app and water. I drank 4 litres. I did not stop drinking, which was a mistake because I was strapped up. So they had to keep bringing me in this commode, this wheelchair commode thing, and they're really respectful. Even Tom left the room so I could have a wee. Now, as I started weeing, this is when the bloody show was happening, and it was horrible. They had to give me wipes. That was when my bloody show happened, which was probably about 2 hours into labour, so don't stress if you haven't got a bloody show. They were then saying, do I want gas and air, do I want any painkillers, but they'll be really careful because I said I didn't want too much pain relief offered. The reasons why, this is not being a hero, this is not like I done childbirth with no pain relief, believe me, we'll get there. But it was because last time I was so heavily medicated that I felt like I wasn't really aware of what was going on. I wasn't in tune with my body. I didn't feel like sober. So I just wanted to get as far as I could without it. And also I thought the longer I lasted, when I really, really needed it, it would have more of an impact rather than have it and it get more intense and there'd be no further options. I had cocodamol, so I was offered paracetamol, cocodamol. I took cocodamol, and then I tried to kind of go between sitting on the ball and laying on my side on the bed. Now, there wasn't much space in this room. I hated the room, just felt very clinical. So sitting on this ball was difficult because the IV was in this hand, the monitor was over there, so I was strapped this way, IV over there as well. There was a wall just behind me, so I was trying to get Tom to do like the soft touch massage my lower back, but I was on this ball and the bed was probably like this far in front of me, so I didn't have much room. And then if I leant on my hand, the cannula was going deeper in my arm, and I'm a bit funny about cannulas and blood tests. So I told Tom to stop and go and sit down because it was kind of just, it just wasn't working for me. The soft music and the app were what I wanted. I tried the gas and air, but it was not working with my hypnobirthing breath, so kind of in and out, it just didn't really work. So again, it wasn't being a hero. Last time I loved the gas and air, but this time it just completely put me off. And I think it got to about 11:30, and then I started using the gas and air when it was getting a bit more intense. In the meantime, in the run up to that, as I was using the app and the breath, my breathing, kind of my exhale turned to a noise. It was like a it was like that moo noise, so it was like that. For some reason it helps. I don't know if it's the vibrations, I don't know what it is, if it's just getting it out of your body, but it really, really worked for me. And as it was getting more intense, I was getting louder. It was then getting to the point I was like, I need pain relief, I need something stronger. The gas and air isn't really working for me anymore. and they examined me, and I was only 4 centimeters. So I know that's still quite quick for that time of labor, but it was getting so intense, and I'd read about the transition phase being a really like hard wobble stage that gets a bit intense, and I thought, I'm nowhere near there, and it's not happened. I must add, I kept changing position, and I thought my waters went, but I was just weeing everywhere. This is where I don't want to upset anyone, because I am going to use the word pain, but it got very, very, very painful, and I was asking them for this pain relief, and the consultants were just arguing amongst themselves of what to give me, whether to give me Pepidin, whether to give me epidural, but I couldn't keep still. They kept trying to put me on my back, and I couldn't physically be on my back. My pelvis was hurting so much if I was on my back. My tummy was hurting. I just wanted to kneel up and lean over the edge of the bed, and they kept trying to push down, and they were shouting at me to calm down, calm down, calm down, and especially that consultant that come into the room and said all the negativity. So very calmly, I'm very proud of myself, I did not swear, I did not raise my voice, I turned to this consultant and said, do not tell me to calm down. If you took the time to read my notes, you'll know that last time I was told to calm down, I was told I was pushing wrong, and my son was stuck and I needed an emergency C-section. And like, the whole room went quiet. After I'd given birth, I think 3 of the midwives come up to me separately and said, I'm so glad you said something, because I was about to say something. Basically, as it was getting intense, this move turned into a every time, and they were telling me to stop, but my body was doing it. My body was making the noise. I couldn't stop it. I was trying to tell them it was helping me, and them telling me to calm down and to stop and blah. And it felt like everyone was around my bed. Tom said it was only about 4 people, but it felt like I was being made to go on my back, touched by so many people. People like, look me in the eye, look at me in the eye, calm down. And I'm like, I don't want to look you in the eye, I don't know you. I was begging. I was like, can somebody just give me some pain relief? Like, my tummy was really hurting at the front, and then I started panicking, is my scar rupturing? Somehow I remember one of the main midwives examined me, and she said her waters are bulging, and I was really distraught at this point. I wasn't breathing very well, I was getting distressed because I was in that much pain. The waters went, and then the midwife went, do you feel better? And I was like, ah, oh, like that. And it was literally the pressure of my waters on my pelvis, and it was like instant relief. Short-lived, because then I was really in pain, okay, and it got really intense. I'd still had no further pain relief at this point. They were still arguing. So after the birth, the midwives told me that when my waters broke, I went from 4 to 10 centimeters instantly, and that's why it was so intense, and I would have been in a lot of pain. They said it would have been really painful, and I hadn't had any pain relief. They were saying that I wasn't keeping still, because you have to be dead still for an epidural, obviously, because it's a spinal, and I couldn't keep still. I didn't want to be laid down. I wasn't being hard work, but just to be in that position was awful. They were still trying to lay me down to get this epidural, and my body started pushing. Now, this was the most incredible feeling ever. My body was just pushing, and it was really weird, because it felt like from sort of here downwards was just this constant like this, with the kind of groaning sound that I was making. It's like, and then they were telling me to stop pushing. I was like, I'm not pushing, I'm not making the sound, I'm not pushing. This is the thing that I hate, and this is the memory that keeps coming back to me. I've not been in the best headspace since, because they were just all around me, all talking at me. They finally got me on my side, and I heard the midwife went, too late, and then she was like, Amanda, I've got to do a mesopotomy. I can't say it. Is that okay? And I nodded. They had to read out all these risks, and I was like, I don't care. 2 pushes, his head was out. 2 more pushes, he was out. That whole second stage was 15 minutes, sorry, 15 minutes. The pushing out bit was the easiest bit. Apparently I didn't make a sound. I just kind of went 4 times, and he was out. The midwife that read my notes really deeply and kept saying, you know, she kept apologising all the way through, like, I know this is not what you wanted, I'm really sorry. And it meant a lot to me that she said that, because it's not her fault. So she made sure that Taylen went straight on my chest, because with Orin I didn't get to hold him for almost 2 hours, and it absolutely killed me. But I didn't get that picture perfect euphoric, my baby's here. And I really thought once I got my VBAC I would literally be emotional, like I did it, but nothing. I kind of held him, and I didn't want to hold him because I was shaking. I think I was in like shock from it all. I hadn't had anything but cocodamol. The cocodamol was 9:30 in the morning. He was born at 2 in the afternoon. I stopped having gas and air before 12, so I'd literally had nothing apart from the injection for the episiotomy. I had nothing. We wanted delayed cord cutting, but the consultant just cut straight away. So the reason was I'd lost a lot of blood. I was losing a lot of blood, and I could feel I was losing a lot of blood, and I think that's why I was shaking. So my episiotomy, I'm probably saying this wrong, it tore to the side. They actually were concerned that I was going to need surgery. As they put him on me, they cut his cord. I don't think he was on me for long. I don't remember. Tom said I did kiss his head. I don't really remember, so I still didn't get that moment. That sucked. They gave me the injections of birth placenta, so I was like holding him. He was having his cord cut. The injection was going in my leg. The afterbirth pains were already kicking in, and that placenta birthing thing is really crazy. It literally makes your body like just propel this placenta. So my legs went up in stirrups, and they got this guy straight away to look at the stitches, and he said, look, I really don't want you to have surgery. If you need to, you've worked so hard to get this VBAC. They were worried that I'd tore from my vagina through to my anus, but apparently I'd thinned out the skin, and there was a graze to the side, which was the tear, and they had to stitch up the episiotomy, and I had to go on the gas and air while he was stitching me up. It was a lot. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to scare anybody. What they did is they put a stitch like inside me, but left the edge, they call it gaping, which is lovely, so it was kind of open. So I finally got to hold Taylen properly afterwards. I thought he had these lovely freckles because he's got a red tone to his hair, but it wasn't. He was severely congested. So basically he was born so fast that his body didn't get, like, his head got squeezed, but his body didn't. So he had all this congestion, so it was kind of like a bruise, but lots of dots, so it looked like freckles. And he still has now, he's 2 weeks old, he's got bloodshot eyes, so he's got rings either side of his irises of red. They will go eventually. So we tried to put him on the breast, and he wasn't really interested. He didn't really eat for like the first day. They decided to keep me in because I'd lost so much blood, so they said, you're both going to stay in tonight. Luckily got a private room. Then he was being sick a lot, but he wasn't eating, and I don't really remember much. I was in a bit of a daze. I couldn't figure out if my birth was positive or negative. I still felt like I failed somehow. Obviously Tom had to leave, and they were monitoring him every few hours, and then somebody, I can't remember, realised there was something not right, so he went down to special care, and they put him on antibiotics because of the mucus. That was it. It was called the grunting. So he was like grunting, and that's a sign that there's a breathing problem. They then identified a heart murmur, but apparently it's really common. It's in 30% of babies. So if you get a baby with a heart monitor, don't panic. Heart murmur, sorry. It went within 3 days and it was normal, so don't panic. They basically took him down for antibiotics through IV every 4 hours, so downstairs was special care while I was upstairs on the ward. So he got to stay with me for the first 3 nights, and then the last night they wanted to keep him down. So because he suddenly started throwing up a lot and then having projectile poos, I was trying to breastfeed, but I was struggling. So we done formula as well. We kept trying to get him on the boob. His latch was good, but I was in a lot of agony, so we're having to do formula and try and do boob. I worked so hard on breastfeeding. I had a midwife hand express me because I was in so much pain. I wanted her to do it to get the cholesterol, I can never say that right, and I got it. I got a full syringe and he had it all, and I decided to use the hospital medical electrical pump. So I expressed like 20 ml down to give to special care, and I don't think she meant anything by it, but the woman said this isn't enough, he needs more. So I then went upstairs and strapped myself to this electric pump till I got 60 mil, and then went back down to special care, and it's heated to like 28 to 30 degrees, and I was on iron tablets and all sorts for the blood loss, and I just felt really faint, really anxious. I then said I've got to go upstairs, and I spoke to my midwife, and she told me off. She's like, on this day you should be getting about 10 mil, not 60 mil. So because he was on boob and formula, sometimes we were topping him up with formula, so we're not sure if that's why he was being sick. So they were discussing dairy allergies, things like that. So he was on an IV and he was on antibiotics, and they weaned him off. They call it normalising, and then kept him in 24 hours after that. I was still there, but he wasn't with me in my room. It was a lot because I hadn't slept for days because I was on there on my own. It was so lonely. It was so lonely because Tom wasn't there, and he was running around, and I had to stop calling Orin because he was getting really upset, begging me to come home. It was just too upsetting to ring him for him. So I took the bun and I didn't speak to him after day 2 of being there. So I just remember that night I was on my own. I didn't have either of my children or my husband, and there was 3 people that bothered to text me out of everybody that I know, and that hurt, and I'm still not over that. And I carried on doing expressing for like 4 days, and then it was so painful. So I think this pump might have been a bit too powerful for me. My boobs almost ended up square, they were solid at the bottom. I was struggling to sleep because of healing down there. I couldn't lay on my side. It was just, the recovery was just really, really tough. It was hurting so much down there that I was crying, because basically my healing has got infected. So I'm now on very strong antibiotics. I was put on antibiotics first for my boobs, and now I've been put on a lot higher dose, 2 lots of antibiotics to try and heal the infection from the episiotomy and tear. I did everything right, all the hygiene, everything. So I'm feeling pretty fed up because I can't do much because of how much I was struggling. I unfortunately stopped breastfeeding again about a week ago. Something had to give, and I'm gutted. I've really tried. I really tried. As I said, I was hand expressed by a midwife. I had like 10 midwives check the latch, and they couldn't understand why I was in this much pain. Yeah, I got my VBAC, and I think it could have gone better if the consultants would have listened to me or read my birth plans, and if I would have just got a little bit of pain relief a bit earlier. I think it would have felt a bit better. Obviously, I think my recovery was always going to be how it was going to be. It was positive, but there's just a lot more to it. I really, really recommend Hypnobirthing, because even when things were going wrong, it really gave me a sense of control, and I felt like I knew what was happening. I wanted to share either way. I hope it's not put anyone off anything. As I said, I'm not in the best headspace, so I'm not sure if there'll be many more videos from me soon. I just feel a little bit lost at the moment, so we'll see how things go, but he's happy and healthy. And thank you so much for the messages on the post that I put up on community, because as I said, I got more support from you guys and people that follow me on Instagram than people that know me personally, and it was really needed at that time. So thank you very much. Bye.